Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you another. All right, so yeah, of course I've been making all these different videos and different types of content on Kanye West and Noriega and all these different folks who are in the news right now, and I think there's more there to discuss because I just saw a clip on Instagram, as I always do, seeing little stuff that pops up, and Chris Como and Kanye West were able to communicate on CNN during Como's telecast, and I guess Kanye West was able to finally address his direct point, and I just don't think he took the opportunity to do so. I don't know if things are deliberate or not when you consider who we're talking about, but what I can say is he was trying to get into what his whole point is, and instead, allowed Como's retort to distract him. He started getting into like this childlike la 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 type of thing. And this is exactly what I was saying about Ye. He gets in his own way because he'll dilute his own message by either his own behavior or just how he handles the moment. It's like if you're gonna get up on your soapbox, or if you're gonna get up on a debate table of any kind, if you're gonna do anything of that nature, you gotta be ready for a couple things. You have to be ready for a couple things. One, you gotta be ready for retorts, especially if you're bringing something passionate to the table. People are gonna lash back at you and they're not gonna listen to you, so you gotta be ready for those pauses. You got to be mentally prepared for those pauses where you're going to have to stop to hear them as they cut you off. Why do you want to make yourself ready for those pauses? Because you don't want to lose your point. I have a million times in a million different situations lost my point in those moments of banter. You lose sight of what it is that you're trying to focus on, and that's essentially what the devil in the situation wants to do. Even though a lot of people don't believe in that, just use it as an example, as the antagonist of the situation that would otherwise keep the communication from coming through. It's the deterrent from the communication coming through. The devil in the details, I guess, is the way I'll describe it. You gotta disarm that so that your point can be communicated. Chris Como, in his situation, he was going to defend against what it is that Kanye was saying. He was going to retort in such a way to explain to Kanye why he didn't see it the way Kanye did. But Kanye was, as people naturally do, not ready for that retort in a way to receive what was coming at him so that he could throw back at him what needed to be said. Kanye was just on some la la la, I don't want to listen, you're not listening to me, and the point never gets across. Now, there's a lot of different ways you could look at that. You could say Como was passionate and he wants to shut down the misinformation, right? Another way to look at Como is you could say he just murked up the situation because now, if you believe that he's hiding something and Kanye's revealing it, then you could just sit up here and honestly say that Como just distracted Kanye, knocked him off his pivot, and blasted his point without ever allowing him to retort it. Either way, Kanye messed up because he didn't disarm Como from ever having that to give him. Regardless of where Como stands, regardless if he's right or wrong, if you're trying to get me to understand your unique opinion, this banned opinion, the very most important thing that you're trying to convey, that you're all about right now, people didn't hear that. All they heard was la 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 la. So I'm trying to figure out what Kanye is doing. It's like for everything he's trying to convey to us, it's almost like he's also trying to let those he's fighting with know that he's not really fighting them because he's giving them all the ammo they need to kick him. I don't trust what I'm seeing when I see behavior like that. That's like me trying to free the slaves, but then I secretly tell Massa what it is I'm doing. What the hell kind of sense does that make? Like, how does that make sense? How does that make sense, yeah? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. When you play both sides, nobody knows where you stand politically. Nobody knows what you really want. And most importantly, it's hard for anyone to trust you. You know what I'm saying? Even people who pride themselves on understand what he's doing see this within it. You know what I'm saying? See this angle. And I know that is there to keep those who are watching off balance, but you got to understand, when you keep everybody off balance, nobody trusts you. You know? When you sit up here and say that you have something serious that everybody should take seriously, and then you don't take it seriously. You know what I'm saying? This is what I think is aligned with a kind of a thought that I've had in my head about being on your own side. When you have to defeat that self-destructive demon so that when you step out to do things that matter to you, you don't actually deter your very own mission. And it's subconscious for a lot of people, but they don't understand how they end up building something and then tearing it down and then being upset that it's been torn down. And that's exactly what I'm seeing here on a massive scale. Homeboy is just trying his best to do what it is that he knows how to do and revealing all of the different things that he wants to reveal, because he's finally reached a point where he can do that. He has the leverage to do it. He has the money to walk through certain doors, and he's seeing what's behind those doors, and he wants to tell everybody else. But the problem is, he's walking in there punching himself. You can't walk in the room with an intent to harm you and the people you got in the room, because then you're not going to do no good at all. It's like, you know what I'm saying? You walk in there, stick the room up, and point the gun at yourself. Like, can y'all imagine such a crazy and bizarre scene? Because it's exactly what it looks like he's doing. So for me, when I look at stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, okay, so it's like a leverage play. It's not even like a leverage play. It's like a bluffing call. It's like, okay, you guys don't think I'll do it? I'll do it, see? And then you go on the edge, but not all the way over the edge. See? It's like, that's what it looks like he's doing to the Jewish media, he says. And my thing is, just like I said in several videos, just because people aren't giving you what you want don't mean you get to immobilize your people and tell your people to go after them. And then at the same time, in some twisted way, he's mad at his own people because they didn't support him on something that he felt was going on personally that didn't even look in a way that would have people rationally supporting him, you know, on his face. Like, everything he's looking at is so complicated, but then he expects other people to understand the complications of all of it. And it's like, brother, you didn't simplify any of that for us. Nor does it look like what it is that it looks like to you. So why would we then empathize in a way that would otherwise align with that thinking? I just think that he's overthinking and missing some things. And the yes men around him are not helping him see it. I don't think they understand it. I think they're just trying to roll because the money's right. And he needs to understand that. Like, half the people who are co-signing you, bro, they don't even know what the hell you're doing, bro. They don't get it. It's over their heads like 8 different times over. It's just like they're trying to follow you because they trust you and they understand that you have a bigger plan, and they're just trying to follow it. But brother, they don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Most of the people don't get it. I'm listening to Whack 100. He's going after Nori. He don't know how to necessarily back your play, it seems to me, from where I'm sitting. He's doing what he think he should do. But if I'm looking at a certain angle, I'm like, man, I think Nori's in on all this. I think Nori's working the plan. Are they all working the plan? As I said, I think everybody around Kanye is really uniform. So you got to think of the whole situation. And it's just politics, y'all. At the end of the day, the man's trying to get in office. So you know it's nothing but politics surrounding him. So it's just like, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, when you start looking at what people are doing, and you start thinking about the teams that are behind them and all the different things that have to do with numbers, you just think that a lot of times people do things just to sway the numbers. You know, as I've mentioned before, you put on a White Lives Matter shirt and all of a sudden certain people lose money, other people make money. It's just how the game goes when you're up that high. So with all that he's dealing with, I'd imagine a lot of what he's doing has to do with that, a good portion of the time. And so as we assess what we're looking at, I just feel like when you're trying to make a point that is as controversial as hurtful and as important as the one that Kanye is attempting to make. And when you start looking at the people who are having the conversation around the conversation, I'm listening to people like the MC from Los Angeles, Cam, and the mission that he's on to try to, bring about some awareness to what it is that his angle is in the conversation. I'm hearing other people on the opposite side who are completely condemning Kanye West, who don't want to hear nothing about what he has to say because of who he's offending and their affiliations in that way. It's like people are taking sides, and he's playing both sides. It's just like, this is when the people have to step back and say, it's okay to not understand what's going on and not take a side because of it. It's okay to do that. But I think that's also something that he could be trying to exploit, since he's trying to show us so much. I think that very thing could be something he's trying to show an example of. And so it's just about showing human beings themselves and all of the different hypocrisies and and all the different things behind the curtain because of it. He's trying to show us what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Do we think this way, or did they instill this thinking in us first? I think he's trying to show us where the programming of our minds actually is, how we behave, since we necessarily can't see it, and how they've enabled that behavior through media and controlling things in such ways. And I think if I were on their side, if they are actually in existence, I would say a lot of things are in place for a reason. You are unearthing those things without understanding why either you should or should not do so, is what I think they would probably say to Kanye. A lot of stuff is in place not because people are evil, it's because they're trying to keep people from killing each other, trying to keep people from jumping on top of each other, and doing all types of stuff that otherwise would be natural with the conundrums that this particular country has, with our history and all that. What's keeping people from being on top of each other and fighting and clicking up in all types of horrible political ways? I think maybe some of those things that are structured in place that kind of have us thinking along the same lines and accepting certain things and coming to certain agreements. You know what I mean? So, because I think I fathom such a world where certain structure is in place to keep people from going completely mad, I do think that there's more to understand about structure before tearing it down. That's what I understand is there to learn. When you're up there, up that high, and you think, now I see how everything works, and it ain't fair, there has to be an account for how much time has already passed and what the progressions of things have been. And this is what I talked about in my last video. It hasn't always been like it is in 2020. So things had to 2022. So the things had to be managed a certain way progressively up until that point. And when you're in charge of those things, and you're dealing with people who are progressively gaining more power and understanding, much has to be taken into account of what has been in place in the progression of things and how those things had to progress and evolve themselves as well. And so I just believe that there is more context to obtain before waging war against those who may have been in place managing things. And while it may not have been acceptable how things were managed, I think the management of things were in place based on a higher structure that ultimately was in place, that they had to manage just as much as anything else. And that's what I'm here to kind of bring forth in possibility, or maybe just spark the mind of somebody who's paying attention. Because I do believe that not everything in place is meant to just keep people down. I don't think that. I do believe that there are entities out there who would like to do that, but I don't think everything that's in place that feels that way is meant for that. I just understand the idea of what chaos looks like when there is no agreements, when there are no structure, when nobody seems to have culture. It's just a bunch of people running around, you know what I mean? And that, I don't imagine, can be a good thing. I don't think so. But when people have certain things to focus on, when they have a certain time where they all watch TV, where they all have a certain time where they hover around sporting events, I think those things kind of keep us distracted away from the otherwise wildness of our imaginations and the stresses of our overall lives, and the way our behavior would be if we didn't have those things to celebrate and hub around and basically distract us. So to a point, I think it could be a positive. But once it starts getting abused, just like anything else, then we got to start looking at what is being abused and start fixing it and start putting ourselves in position to have better overall social agreements. And I think that's where we're trying to be. That's what it is. It's not about just disarming everything and finding chaos, because I don't think we function in chaos very well. I don't think humans are necessarily meant for chaos. Even though there are a lot of people who would love to see it, I don't know if that's the way to go. But I do know that we need to free our minds as it pertains to certain things. I do know we need to understand this better so we can know what it is to have a free mind. You know what I mean? What it truly is, with the responsibility of having a world full of free thinkers, what that truly means. You know what I mean? And embrace it responsibly. Not just rip the band-aid off of everything and just say, hey, everybody's free now, do what it you're gonna do. And you got to look at it like this. If you're going to take every domesticated animal and throw them out in the wild at the same time, what do you think is going to happen? I don't think anything good, I'll tell you that. So we just have to be more responsible in the midst of understanding that we've had so much withheld from us. You know, various people, black people, people of color, just in this country, the progressive nature of what it is to get to where we are and now need what it is that we want. I think, or rather want what it is that we feel we deserve. I think we need to also take into account what happens in the prolonged effect of what happens after this. Now we have this conversation, now we get to what point, and then what? How do we handle this situation in such a way to where future generations and the different things that they deal with can take that example and be better for it? Instead of us taking the examples of different wars and things of how they've handled things the wrong way and continuing to kill each other in conflict. I think we got to teach our kids a better way so they can survive things and not just accept that things are going to always be the way that they were, because we are an evolving entity, human beings. We are getting stronger, we are getting faster, we are getting smarter, and because of it, what's possible in the past should now be broadening in terms of what it is that we can do together. And so difficult conversations, the indifference and hating people and wanting to keep people down, the agreement that poverty will forever be and that ignorance will forever be and that some people just ain't going to get right. I'm just not accepting any of that. I'm not accepting any of that. When I keep watching people get stronger, faster, bigger every single year, more prayerful, I watch myself overcome things that I didn't think I could even overcome. I won't believe that progression is impossible. I won't believe that people can't do things that people think isn't possible today. I've watched science grow so much in my lifetime. The things that people thought they knew, and they don't know anymore. You know, I think about how, when I was a little kid, how people acted when Magic Johnson announced he had caught the virus. And how everybody was running around without information, not knowing, which would otherwise offend people who do know, right? Because information is now going around. If you would have saw people acting, you would have been offended. But just like anything else, you get new information, new understandings, new norms, new social agreements, and then people just overall adapt to that. And now that's raw nature. We don't even think about that. That's bad. We don't, that's cancelable stuff. So it's like, as we continue to see that growth, we have to believe that world peace and these various things that we think are just so far away are not only possible, but that's where it's headed. We're building toward that. And every little thing that has to happen in order for that to take place is where we're going. We are healing. We are going to fight our way through it. We're going to structure our way through it. We're going to click our way up. We're going to politic all our way to a place like that, because that is what human beings ultimately are about. That's what it is, man. We're going to get stronger. We're going to be able to adapt to things as it changes. As the weather changes, we're going to get stronger. I think people think we're just going to dry out. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think that whatever this world throws at us, there will be enough survival to keep us going throughout time. We just got to get through what we're going through, man. We got to get through what we're going through. If it gets hotter, we'll grow thicker skin. If it gets colder, we'll grow stronger fur. We're going to adapt. That's the bottom line. So with that being said, man, I wish everybody well. Don't let an opportunity pass without considering what I said at the beginning of the video about giving people an opportunity to retort when you have an important thing to say. And if you don't have the temperament for what it is you're engaged in, it is okay to reconvene and come back another day. But once you show yourself to be someone who can't give the information in a way that keeps people focused, when you start doing the la thing, you're gonna lose the people that would otherwise listen to you. You know, that's really what it was. That's what prompted me to turn on this camera. It didn't even really matter that I saw the whole segment, because it wasn't about that. It was just about when you just miss an opportunity and the world is listening and waiting to hear something that they need to hear to make you make sense. Missed the opportunity completely. So yeah, man, I'll consider this a therapy session since I rambled on. But this is just what's on my mind, man. We gotta see where we're headed. Even though the progress has been is slow, we gotta understand where this thing is building up to, this humanity thing. And it just kind of skips certain steps in terms of certain bad mistakes that we continue to make over and over again in regards to handling one another. You know, and just understanding what tempering your energy when you've been suppressed, what wisdom that holds. You know what I mean? When we say pressure breaks pipes, if you can control that pressure, you know, you as the person who's been ruptured, you see what I'm saying? You're the pipe, so to speak, but you got to see the fruit in controlling the pressure that comes out when you've been suppressed. Forget the other side of the situation. You don't want all that you have inside spewing out uncontrollably just because you've been suppressed so long. You need to come out with a certain level of intent and incrementally give what it is that you have to give, that in a way that makes sense to you. Do you understand what I mean by that? A lot of times we've been held back, and we finally get a chance to come out and boom, we start acting 10 times worse than those who held us back. We start acting like we're the supreme. Now we start thinking everybody else needs to start being our slaves or some weird stuff like that. Don't let the pressure that you've been held back by make it so that you break and ultimately become a problem, or you end up being what now becomes the problem or deserves the worst of things. You know, karma comes from, in my mind, just a boomerang effect. Hurt people hurt people. Hurt people all over again. And it's like, at some point, the person who's been hurt has to say, I'm going to stop it here. I don't want to turn into a supremacist. I don't want to turn into a bad guy. I don't want to turn into a thief. I got these things done to me or my people, and this is where it stops. The evil stops here. And if that's not what you want, then karma came first. You see what I'm saying? You got what you deserved. It just came before you did what you were about to do. That's all that is. A lot of people don't look at it that way. They're like, something bad happened to me, so now I'm gonna get my pound of flesh. I used to be that way. The universe didn't do right by me, so I want to engage in the wrong energy. I'm gonna take my pound of flesh back. And what does that do? Further make me deserving of the bad stuff that comes my way. It just becomes a cycle that I never stop myself, and I never hold myself accountable either. So it just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. Now, at some point in time, you got to stop that. Whether there's accountability to hold or not, whether it's your fault or not, you just got to stop the evil. Say, yeah, nah, it stops here with me. That's where it stops. Yes, that horrible thing happened to me, but nah, I'm not going to do it to nobody else. I'm going to hold it. I'll hold that. That's my burden to hold. You ain't gotta pass it. I ain't gotta take that out on nobody else. Yes, I'm angry at some Jewish people for whatever, just by example. I'm not really, but just, I may be mad at some, but I'm not going to take it out on everybody. I'm not going to wage war on everybody because a couple people did business with me that I didn't agree with. I'm not going to wage war against the entire, population of this type of person because my wife, and I aren't getting along and she happens to be like that. That's her people. Like, that's just stupid, man. That's wrong. And ultimately that disrupts you. That ends up rupturing your circumstance. It makes you look bad. Now you're a pipe that's busting all over the place instead of something that's intact. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I'm saying. A lot of times our own energy ends up destroying us. It ain't other people's energy. It ain't what they did. It's how we reacted to what they did that ultimately did the damage. And the hell that we're trying to escape is the very hell we create by just reacting to what it is that ultimately is there to react to. Let that person retort. You know they're going to retort. Let that person cut you off. And when they're done spewing whatever they have to say, pick up right where you left off. Why? Because you knew they was going to do that. They had to do that. And you know what you have to do? Hold your point. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching.